Next issue, TSA questioning body scanner opt-outs. Steve Watson writes at Infowars.com, refusing to be irradiated, now treated as suspicious behavior. And of course, they've already deployed the, quote, behavior detection officers to watch for nervousness or people who don't like going through security because that's suspicious terrorist activity. Instances of TSA agents demanding to know why travelers are opting out of walking through X-ray firing body scanners and treating the action as suspicious continue to be reported. Here's an account in LouRockwell.com, who's also a great defender of civil liberties and has also been covering the TSA issue for many years. They've got an account from traveler Ryan Alford, who writes how he was asked by an agent, "Why did you opt out?" To which he replied, "Am I required to answer?" The agent mumbled and continued groping and poking, then asked, "Why are you traveling to?" He again answered, "Am I required to answer?" And then, of course, they brought over the supervisors and asked him more questions and then finally let him go. And that's just what you can expect because they planned all along to make everyone go through the body scanners and to refuse the ability to travel to anyone who didn't submit to the body scanner or to the new Trusted Traveler program, which is guaranteed not to stop any terrorism. Of course, that's already a guarantee of the TSA. They didn't stop the underwear bomber. They've never stopped or caught any terrorist whatsoever. At the very best, they've showed us some probably cooked up images of the 9/11 hijackers well after the fact. Now, of course, they were planning the body scanners well before the underwear bomber incident. I myself was encouraged to go through one before the body scanner thing happened after Abdul Muttalib, who's now pleaded guilty, is now back in the news to help legitimize the body scanners. And you know what happened when I told them, no, I'm not going through the body scanner. I don't want to be radiated. Well, before I got the pat down, I was told, you read too much. Now they've got the so-called law in Australia, which I'm sure is going to be a model law for the whole world. No scan, no fly, reports the Digital Journal, as Australian airports roll out full body scans. They're telling everyone you will go through the body scanners or you won't fly. And that's really a shame. I really wanted to visit Australia someday. So many interesting landmarks and culture there. But with this so-called law in place, I will never be visiting them. And what's more dangerous anyway, these body scanners that they said wouldn't store images, they said they couldn't look at you, they said perverts wouldn't be looking at it and pulling out, quote, cute-looking women with, quote, good figures to go through the body scanners again. Well, it turns out they had a study in 1998, yes, 1998, before the 2001 9/11 hijacking incident, the 9/11 attacks, the big event for this whole new society. 1998, government ignored report finding up to 100 cancer deaths from TSA naked body scanners per year. 100 deaths a year statistically from the radiation scanners because it's just like stuff you dose in the water, whether it's fluoride or whether it's these crazy proposals for lithium. Even a depressed person has to have a very metered out, very careful dosage based on their body weight, on their other conditions, other factors. You can't mass dose people. You got people already at risk, and when they're forced through these body scanners, it triggers something. People get cancer. It's statistically known that if you put everyone through these, all the travelers through these body scanners, you're going to get statistically 100 deaths a year. They knew that in 1998. They've had the other Johns Hopkins studies and everything else showing how dangerous this stuff is. And the TSA, Homeland Security, keeps lying about it. They keep obfuscating. They keep waffling back and forth. No, it's here. It causes deaths. That's less than terrorism causes, if you even believe in that stuff. The body scanners are more dangerous than the terrorists you claim you're going to catch that you don't even catch. Don't try to put me through one. And don't try to stop our travel. We have a right to travel. We have a right to travel. It's constitutional. It's a God-given right. It's a natural right. You can't violate our God-given rights. They're unalienable. They're unalienable. They can't be transferred. We have a natural right. And here we go from 2008 and from 2009, how they were planning to put the body scanners in. Again, all before the stupid underwear bomber incident, which we have a witness coming up. We're going to show you even more video. Kurt Haskel and his wife were on the plane with the underwear bomber. They witnessed what a setup it was, how the sharp-dressed man helped get him on the plane. They witnessed how there were the other weird suspects and how the law enforcement didn't want to hear their accounts, and they didn't want to admit or release the video cameras that there was a sharp-dressed man. Then later the State Department, that guy Undersecretary Kennedy, had to admit, yeah, he was given the visa waiver, even though he didn't have his ID, even though he didn't even appear to be coherent at the time. A lot of people said he looked drugged up and was let on the plane. Well, none of that matters because everyone who wants to travel will go through the body scanners just as they planned. TSA whole body scanners to replace metal detectors. That is in April 7th, 2009. In a change of plans, the TSA says it will now replace the walk-through metal detectors at airport checkpoints with whole body imaging machines. They're already at 6 airports nationwide. The TSA's plans aren't set in stone, they say, but unless there's an uproar, everyone gets to go through them. Why? Because Michael Chertoff, former head of Homeland Security, has an investment in the body scanner machines, and is a lobby for them. And what better lobby than to be in the position to create a hoax, a pretext for putting everyone through the machines and selling them to airports. Great scam. No one seems to be able to figure it out, except our brilliant listeners here. I know you know, but go tell other people, please. Just disgusting. I give you now part 2 of the exclusive InfoWars interview with Kurt Haskel. I really wish he would have filed that lawsuit, though. That's so disappointing. We really have to hold these people accountable as much as we can. This whole thing is such a hoax. They're trying to shut down our travel. I'm going to stop ranting now. I give you part 2 of that interview. This part is about how it's a government cover-up and a false flag.
Continuing now with our breaking news coverage, new facts on the table tonight about just how hard the father of the alleged Christmas bomber tried to warn U.S. intelligence about his son.
One thing I'd like to point out is that the system worked.
And we're learning tonight more about the suspect. Let's get to Fox News' Andrea Isom. She begins our team coverage. She is live at Metropolitan Airport. Andrea?
As the hours go on, you are right. We are learning more about the suspect, and quite frankly, the details are chilling. The man, the menace, 23-year-old Abdul Mudala of Nigeria. Mudala's despicable actions were all on al-Qaeda's behalf. Sources telling Fox News his instructions were to blow up the plane over U.S. soil.
The intelligence community knew about Umar Farouk Abdulmutallab weeks ago and failed to spread word that would have put him on the no-fly list.
The father of the suspect in the Christmas incident warned U.S. officials in Africa about his son's extremist views.
That a report was prepared and it was sent on to the CIA in Langley, Virginia, CIA headquarters, but it was not disseminated to the wider intelligence community.
Obviously, when you have a father coming in and talking to the embassy about a son who's radicalized, gives the embassy the passport number, the first thing you would think is a very fast effort to see if the person's got a visa and suspend the visa.
One of the things you don't know about is the number of people that we have turned away because their name has been on the watch list or on the no-fly list.
Only my mom could, but not me and my dad, because both me and my dad are on the watch list.
Tough to believe, but 8 years later, we are still talking about connecting the dots and a failure to communicate.
Call for immediate reviews on how this guy got on the plane
and how he was able to get some explosives on the plane. So we got a while to go.
This is a controlled patsy.
Facts are facts. You can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts.
When we first took off, I noticed about 10 seats ahead of us to the left-hand side, he had a camcorder, and I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe this was his first flight and was just excited. And then when the actual incident occurred, I looked up, and he was the only one standing and filming the entire thing.
You know, when we're on the plane, I didn't notice anybody filming. My understanding is that there was someone filming, but my view of his seat was blocked by the restroom. He was on the left side of the plane, I was on the right, and between us there was a restroom, so I wouldn't have been able to see him anyway. I know more about the story later on. I initially tried to contact him, the man, shortly after the flight, and I just received an email back from an attorney, you know, and not him. He wouldn't talk to me at all. So that was my initial contact with him. Now, interestingly enough, about 6 months ago, this man contacted me out of the blue. He was going to have a deposition in regards to the trial where prosecutors, FBI agents, and I think some Dutch police or someone, around 10 people were coming to interview him in Holland, where he lives. Holland, not Michigan, Holland, the country, or the Netherlands, if you will. And he called me to talk about it. So I actually got to talk to him. He doesn't speak real good English, but we had a conversation for about an hour. And this is what he told me. He said he was traveling by himself. He had just purchased a video camera of some sort, and he was filming us coming in for a landing. Now, mind you, when this started, we were at an altitude of 20,000 feet. The media reports it was 10,000 feet, but it was 20,000 feet because I know I was watching the seatback monitor when it started. So I'm not sure what exactly you could film that high other than some clouds, but anyway. So he's filming out the window, heard a commotion, he turned and started filming. He said he had video of the incident. He also said he had still pictures of the man in orange, who was the man taken into custody after we landed. He told me that the video was seized by the FBI after landing, and that he still had the still pictures of the man in orange. So I asked him to forward me copies so I could verify that it was the same man, and just for me to look at too. And he asked me why I wanted those, and I said for my own personal interest, and he said, I don't trust that you won't put them on the internet. I'm going to keep them for my own personal safety. Make of that what you will. I don't know. That's his statement. He didn't seem to be anything other than what he's claiming. From what I could tell, he didn't seem to be lying to me, but you know, make up your own mind whether that story's credible or not. The video has never been released. No video of anything in this case has been released to anyone other than the prosecutors, the judge, and the underwear bomber himself. There is a protective order in the case indicating that any attorney involved in the case cannot speak about what evidence there is. I have a suspicion that Anthony Chambers has some of the videos, maybe not the video on the plane, but I have a strong suspicion that he has the airport security video from Amsterdam. There's never been any picture or video of the underwear bomber released going through security or at the airport or anything. He didn't go through security. He was escorted around security. And actually, shortly after this incident, there was an article. It's from the Herald Scotland, December 28th, 2009, and this is a really important article, and this is the only paper to ever report on this, and nobody talks about it. For this one sentence, the military police have already said Abdul Muttalib did not go through passport control at Schiphol when he arrived from Lagos. Okay, they admit he didn't go through passport control, but what they don't tell you here is that passport control and security are in the same line at Schiphol. So if you're not going through passport control, you're not going through security. So there's an admission here. Abdul Muttalib not only did not have his passport checked, but he didn't go through security at all. They leave out the fact that he was escorted, but obviously this is the reason no one else is reporting on this article or talking about it. But again, here we have an admission. The underwear bomber did not go through passport control at Schiphol Airport, and passport control is the same line as security, so therefore 2 + 2 means he didn't go through security. So he didn't go through security. So therefore there are no pictures possible of him going through security because he didn't go through it. The FBI contacted Lori and I on December 28th, 2009. So 3 days after this happened, they visited our office here in Detroit, south of Detroit. The first thing I asked them was, hey, you know, I can help you in the investigation. I saw the accomplice at the Amsterdam airport. Wouldn't it be wise to show me the video from the airport or some still pictures so I can identify him? And the two agents, and they're two different agents this time, they kind of did like a half head turn near each other and kind of did like a chuckle under their breath. And that was right at the start of the interview, and it raised red flags with me right away. There was no response to, you know, we don't have the video at this time, or we don't think you should see it. Nothing. No response at all. They then proceeded to ask me the story again, which I told them the story again. They showed me a series of around 10 pictures, and I looked through them. The first 8, I said, I have no idea who these people are. The next 2 were of the underwear bomber, and I got the impression that they were trying to confuse me to destroy my credibility, maybe? I don't know. It was rather strange, but none of the man in orange and none of the man in tan suit that escorted the bomber at the Amsterdam airport. So it's kind of strange. Pretty early on, within a few days anyway, that there was something really weird going on, maybe a cover-up, because, you know, I had the FBI agents come to my office on December 28th, not even wanting to talk about the man in the tan suit that helped the bomber at Schiphol Airport, which to me was a huge red flag, because as far as I know, myself and only one other person saw him. The one other person hasn't been willing to talk about it. So it would make sense that the government would want to talk to the eyewitness and have the eyewitness identify the man. And when they didn't do that, being a lawyer, it started really raising red flags with me, number one. Then number 2, in regards to the man in orange who was taken into custody after we landed, you see, the government couldn't say he didn't exist because he was taken away from a group of all of us passengers, and several other passengers saw this, so they had to lie and cover up who he was. They couldn't say he didn't exist like they tried to do with the man in tan suit. So they started telling lies about this man. First of all, they said he didn't exist, and that didn't fly because several passengers saw him. It wasn't just me this time. You know, and then they told 5 other lies.
After we had been there for about an hour, all the time with our carry-on bags, 3 bomb-sniffing dogs were brought in. One of them sat down by the bag that was brought in by the man in orange. He had an orange. He appeared to be of Indian or Pakistani or some similar descent, maybe around age 30. He was walked back to a room, not in handcuffs. He went in the door. He was in there approximately an hour. When he came out, he was handcuffed, taken away. An FBI officer came up to the group of the rest of us passengers and said the following, which is not exact, but close. You're being moved to another area. It's not safe here. I'm sure all of you saw what just happened and can figure out why you're being moved.
We were taken to a customs area, and they brought bomb dogs in, checked all the luggage with that. Another person was taken aside and handcuffed and brought out, and we were moved into another room for safety reasons, they told us.
My story on this has been the same all along, and the FBI now has 5 versions of their story, which I clearly lay out with a time period and with each version, and they're not credible. There is absolutely no excuse for the reason why. Number 1, we were left on the plane for 20 minutes, not knowing if there was another bomb there. Number 2, security allowing us to take our carry-on bags off the plane, and we stood there with all of our bags together for an hour until the bomb-sniffing dogs arrived. And then, you know, after they found one, well, then we're moved to another area, and now they don't want to talk about the man who was taken away.
You were there. They didn't stop him for immigration violations. The dog went over and sat down in front of his bag, the alert for explosives.
Right, exactly.
Unless this is a passport-sniffing dog. This is a huge story, one of the biggest out there. The FBI is on this full time. They know what's going on. Why are they being dishonest? And how do we investigate this when the investigators themselves are engaged in clear obstruction of the truth?
You know, I don't know how else to take it. It's either utter incompetence or intentionally hiding something, you know, and I don't know how to take it.
I came out to the media and I said, look, that's not possible. These were bomb-sniffing dogs, not agricultural sniffing dogs. And this went on 5 times, and then they finally quit talking about him and gave up. But they kept changing their story about him. You know, obviously it would be easier for them to say, like they did the man in tan suit, that he just didn't exist, but they couldn't do that because there were so many witnesses. So that's how they handled that man. But eventually they just gave up on even talking about him. Interestingly enough, at the end of January 2010, when this case was about a month old, well, a little earlier on, we had Obama come out and say, hey, this was just a series of mistakes that we made, and you know, we need to beef up our security procedures or what have you. But then recently after that, we had 2 important things at the end of January 2010. One was an ABC News article by Brian Ross, where he came out and said, yeah, you know, this man in tan suit that was witnessed by passengers, he said passengers, but really it was just me, that, you know, we're looking into this guy and we think he actually helped the underwear bomber so that he wouldn't get cold feet. You know, they didn't go so far as to admit what I had been saying, that you know, that would have been impossible, that it was Al-Qaeda, because he went to the desk and said, we do this all the time. And then he had enough authority to walk down this hallway in a secure area and talk to the manager and get the man on the flight. So obviously Al-Qaeda couldn't do that. But they did admit the existence of the man in this article. So to me, that was a big story, because it was not only the first time they admitted his existence, but they've never admitted his existence after that. But at least we have it once detailed. Not only that, but it's by ABC News, so fairly credible media, at least, you know, to some. But later in January 2010, we had hearings in Congress on this, where we had Undersecretary of State Patrick Kennedy come out, and if you watch the video of him, it's pretty telling that he's trying to cover up something and not tell the truth. He's squirming in his chair and seems really uncomfortable answering the questions. And this video is all over the internet if you want to Google it and look at it. But what he said is basically, you know, we knew Abdul Muttalib was a terrorist. We wanted to stop him from coming in the country and revoke his visa.
There have been numerous cases where our unilateral and uncoordinated revocation of a visa would have disrupted important investigations that were underway by one of our national security partners. They had the individual under investigation, and our revocation action would have disclosed U.S. government's interest in that individual and ended our colleagues' ability, such as the FBI, to pursue the case quietly and to identify terrorist plans and co-conspirators.
But we had a request from an intelligence agency, and he didn't say which one. What he said was, we'll talk about it in closed session. And he said we had a request from an intelligence agency that they're tracking Abdul Muttalib. They want to let him into the U.S. to follow him and to catch bigger fish. And they honored that request in order to let whatever intelligence agency do their business, so that they wouldn't knock out one lone soldier in the war on terror, and they could essentially follow him in the U.S. and catch accomplices. So that's what they admitted to. But Patrick Kennedy went on to say, there's more to this, we need to talk about it in closed session, and that's kind of where it ended. So obviously, I don't believe that for a minute. What I believe through, and what's been shown through the evidence, I believe, is that an intelligence agency gave Abdul Muttalib an intentionally defective bomb and put him on the plane to stage a fake terrorist attack. So though, you know, those two things early on raised a lot of red flags with me, and then because of that, I just started paying attention to every single detail in this case, going to all the court hearings, and it's just been one contradiction after another, one lie after another. You know, the media not wanting to report on things, and it's just, to me, it's a very, very obvious staged event.
And that was our exclusive interview with Kurt Haskel. witness and outspoken critic of the entire fraudulent underwear bomber case, another false flag set up to enslave us and force us through body scanners, shut down our travel. But that was only part 2. We have another part coming up. Of course, it'll all be up for our great Prison Planet subscribers later. But now, of course, we turn to our quote of the day. Coming up after the break is, of course, none other than Sheriff Richard Mack. It's going to be a great interview. Such a great guy, a constitutionalist, can't go wrong. He's going to run actually in Congress against some of these unconstitutional monsters who've been in office for decades, vote for NDAA, internet control bills, everything. Anyway, our quote is from Arnold J. Toynbee. There's another Arnold Toynbee as well, the elder. This Toynbee was 1889 to 1975 lifespan. He was actually the first president of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the public branch off that is the sister organization to the Council on Foreign Relations, all coming from the Rhodes, Cecil Rhodes secret society that steers so much of our modern day, all based on that Jesuit model of secret societies, based on that Illuminati model of secret societies, always working in secret. And here's that quote from Professor Arnold Toynbee, best known for his 12-volume series, A Study of History. We are presently working discreetly with all our might to wrest this mysterious force called sovereignty out of the clutches of the local nation states of the world. That's right, they want to destroy sovereignty. That quote's from 1931. You've heard the other quotes, the founding quote of the CFR.